Welcome to Resourced and Resourceful Leadership, a podcast for people who care about the world and their impact in it. I'm your host, Dr. Christine Pettit. Thank you for listening in today. Today's episode is an interview with Mindy Friedman, but done in the style of Amy Poehler's Good Hang podcast. The reason for this is because when I was floating the idea of having a podcast or exploring that, I wrote to a few people in my life and asked them just to give me some feedback. And one of the questions was, if you could read an article or listen to a podcast from me, what would you most like to hear my thoughts on? So our guest Mindy was one of the people who responded, and she was super encouraging, gave me lots of ideas, whether it was me talking about what it was like to be a coach, some of my ideas about systemic challenges in leadership, especially in nonprofit and mission-driven organizations and spaces. And also she said, you know a lot of really interesting people. I'd love to hear you in conversation with them. It could be about the work or really just anything. You could discuss the questions you pose at the end of your newsletters, for example. Have you been listening to Amy Poehler's Good Hang podcast? My ideas here are influenced by that. So no, I had not been listening to Amy Poehler's podcast, but I started listening to it, and there were a few things that I really love about it. In particular, I like that Amy Poehler has someone on to talk good about her guests behind their back, and also to suggest questions or topics for the conversation. I decided to do just that for this interview with Mindy. And so she connected me with Kelly McAnnany, who you'll hear more about their relationship and connection. But that was a really fun conversation to have. And then we get into the interview with Mindy, which is all sorts of dynamic, thoughtful, fun, interesting. So anyway, we're just going to jump right into that conversation, starting with Kelly McAnnany. Thank you so much for talking with me today, Kelly. It's nice to meet you.
So wonderful to meet you.
We're here today to talk good behind Mindy's back. So I'm wondering, first of all, if you can share a little bit about how you know Mindy and your connection to her.
Sure. I realize we have limited time and I could talk for hours about how wonderful she is. So I'll have to limit myself today. But yeah, so Mindy and I first met, we've known each other, I guess, about 15 years. But it's hard to imagine a world where I didn't know her because she's such a wonderful, energetic force in my life. So we met in New York City. We worked together when she was a baby lawyer, when she was actually still in law school, and she got a fellowship at our organization. And so I remember being very uncomfortable when she'd call me her boss. She'd introduce me, meet my boss, which is always like a loaded thing, but she'd always do it with a big smile, which is also very Mindy. Everything is done with this wonderful, glowing smile. So, yes, that's our first introduction. She was at NYU and she was a law student. And so she was looking at a project around disability access. And so I helped run our disability justice program. So it's very much public interest lawyering and fellow rabble-rouser, which is what I listed my title, former and current. Yeah, that's the way we came into each other's orbit.
Wonderful. And how did your relationship evolve over time?
Oh, it's a good question. So I think, again, we had this more supervisor relationship initially, but it never really, of course, that's present and it's there. But the thing about Mindy is that she's one of the most kind of open and eager and earnest people I've probably ever met, which is saying a lot because I feel like I've run across a lot of people with great openness. But I think the evolution is that we were also friends and could share things. And she's just very engaging. She's so curious. And so I think over time it was more than just working together. And the work was hard and it was in many ways it's a marathon, not a sprint, trying to have an impact in the world, especially through social justice work and lawyering. And because I know she is no longer practicing, but at that time she was wearing her lawyer hat. Yeah, and then over time, we've kept in touch, and it feels like we pick up wherever we've left off, even if it's been a year. And then I just saw her this past summer. I saw her a couple years ago when I was in LA, but I got to meet her beautiful, world's most adorable child's son, and her husband was out here with them, and so we really reconnected, and so that's been really fun.
That's awesome. So starting
Yeah.
out from that kind of entry point in law and then just the connection over time, it sounds like you've already said so many things that I know to be true about Mindy. Her smile, her openness, that earnestness, and that
Yep.
curiosity, among many other
Mhm.
things. I also personally love to sing karaoke with her in her presence.
Oh my gosh. She's been holding out on I lived in Japan for a year long ago, so I love karaoke, so now I'm gonna have to make her do that with me.
Oh,
That's good
yeah.
to know.
Highly
This is
recommend.
okay, fantastic.
So I am curious, you shared some of the things. Is there anything else you want to say in terms of talking good behind her back?
Yeah, again, I know we can't speak forever, but I will say she's so funny. She's so funny. She's so witty, and it's this very effortless, but very clever and dry sarcasm, but never mean-spirited, which again is a really hard balance to achieve. I think for most people it can be a sideways vent or some kind of how they really feel. And with her, it's just light and fun and hilarious. Whether texting and bantering or just in the moment coming up with inside jokes, I don't know, nicknames for things. And she's hilarious. And but never any ego, which again is quite unusual. So that's
Mhm.
something else that I find really special about her.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, that funniness. I also think of her as someone who's very creative, creative in the
Oh,
way she thinks about things and the way she shows up in life.
yes, 100%. And I think it's a really unusual thing, especially when in the legal world, it's not something that people think of when they think of lawyers, like, oh, the really creative types. And she managed to connect those. In our world back then, and I think now, she's very innovative. She has a vision, she's got a strong perspective, and she doesn't pose it. It's a very facilitator role, which is very much what she's doing now. And it's such a strength for her. So, this kind of innovation, thinking outside the box, but very focused and dialed in. And again, that's a hard combination. I think it's unusual. So, she's a doer, but she's a thinker. She's contemplative and she's really compassionate and very empathetic, which again, as a lawyer doing that work, it's super important. And then now the work that she's doing, she can really get into the shoes of and the mind of what clients are thinking and how people are operating and facilitate problem solving and success. So very impressive individual.
Yeah, a lot of strengths there. I'm curious, what would you recommend that I ask her in our interview? What are some things you think would be good questions for her to talk about or things to talk about?
Yeah. I feel like she and I can both be very, I don't know, corny, and we're allowed to be, so it's not off limits, which is great. I don't know if this is quite corny, but I was like, I feel like she would love the kind of question where, if you were a paint color, what would you be and why? Or like, if your
Mhm.
leadership was a paint color, what would it be and why? Or leadership style. And then I'm trying to remember what podcast this was, but I feel like other times I've heard people say, what's one thing people get wrong about leadership? What's something that we should know that it's not or it is that people don't realize? And then I also was thinking about what's one thing people get wrong about lawyers or the practice of law or the integration of data evaluation, legal practice, that kind of thing. Cause I think there's something to mine there as well, potentially.
Oh, those are great questions.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah, those are great. And I can definitely see how her creativity and experience can come out with those questions.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing your
Yeah.
insights, talking good behind her back, and some questions to ask. Those are really good ones. Is there anything else you want to share before we wrap up?
I think one of the things I just wanted to mention that she, again, in the category of a unicorn person in this regard, but she's just always looking to lift others up. And again, it was stood out even more in the legal world where I think it's very top down. And so we had been doing community lawyering, but I just watch her and I think for someone so smart and so capable and all these wonderful positive attributes, she's not, it's about lifting everyone else up and not holding power. It's about sharing it and about amplifying everyone else's voice as well. So I just wanted to mention that because I think it's one of the things that stands out the most
Yeah,
about
that's so
her.
important. That's
Yeah.
so important. Is there a story or a memory that you have that kind of crystallizes some of those qualities that you've talked about?
It's just I can picture the work we did in the community with clients, and a lot of it was education and organizing, and this was women with disabilities who couldn't get mammograms because they couldn't stand. They were using wheelchairs, and there's a lot of inaccessibility in the medical world, and so she was doing what was a lot of trust building with folks to try to help prepare them also for testifying to the city council and making their voice heard and writing a report. And so throughout that process, I think again, so much of it was about building trust and then finding a space to give them space to exercise their power and their voice. And she just was, you could just see that she'd walk in the room and it was instantly they wanted to go talk to her, and people just felt really comfortable with her and just really appreciated her throughout that campaign. And that was years long. This is not a sort of
Mhm.
sprint; it's a marathon. And she always showed up.
That's so
Yeah.
amazing and so
Yeah.
important when working with people in general and
Yep.
just being able to build that trust and connection and have people feel like they're listened to, they're
Mhm.
considered, and their experience is important.
Exactly, exactly.
Cool. I don't know Mindy in that world, so it's really fun
Oh,
hearing
yeah.
you talk about, yeah, what you saw in her and in that work, which is so important.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely, absolutely.
that's
Yeah, it's her hidden identity.
yeah.
I don't disclose that she's a lawyer by training very often so that others very
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your
Yeah,
time and experience with me today.
my
And
pleasure.
I know
Absolutely.
Mindy will enjoy hearing this when the episode comes out too.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, Mindy, thank you so much for coming on the Resourced and Resourceful Leadership podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't tell you, we talked briefly before you started recording, but I'm very excited and nervous.
Yeah, and I told you I was nervous, like nervous-sided, which I was surprised that I'm like, "Oh, I get nervous before interviewing people."
Yeah.
I want it to go well. I want it to be a positive experience.
Yeah. It's um it's really an honor to be here too. I've enjoyed listening to the podcast so much, and I'm still catching up on some episodes that I missed, but the your friends are so cool and so accomplished and wonderful speakers and thinkers and just so thoughtful. And so just to be part of this project, I don't know, air quotes project or whatever you refer to it as, is thrilling and very humbling. So thank you for including me.
Thank you. I include you among the many awesome friends and people that I'm connected to, and you were one of the first people I thought of when I was brainstorming my list of people to interview. So I'm so glad you said yes, and I'm just excited to have this conversation with you.
Thanks.
Yeah, and just in introducing you, you gave me a few descriptors that I could use for you. Your name, of course, Mindy, but also mom pirate. I want to hear about that. Data strategist and co-founder of Fireside Consulting. Can you unpack those a little bit for me?
Yeah, I forgot that I filled that out. Okay. So mom pirate is what my son Emmett calls me. It's a little nickname. I'm mom pirate and his dad is dad ghost. He likes ghosts, pirates, and mermaids.
Oh,
And so we have all been assigned a role in this fantasy world of his. He's 2.5, almost 3. So that maybe that makes that make a little more sense in case I didn't mention it. And then what was the next? So data strategist is a role that I have been lucky to be, I guess the word I want to say is curate, because it's really an amalgamation of a bunch of different experiences that I've been, the image I have in my head is like kneading dough, just really cultivating throughout my career and the different career experiences that I've had. And I think data strategist just really encapsulates the way that I think and what I can contribute when I'm leading in my career focused space. And then co-founder of Fireside Consulting. So Fireside is my consulting company with my partner, Rebecca Heilatman, and she and I started this company over 3 years ago, but just recently, earlier this year, dove in full time. So now this is what we do.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you want to share a little bit about Fireside Consulting?
Sure. So we support mission-driven organizations and public agencies mainly with their work. We provide needs assessments, data strategy, evaluation, strategic planning support. And generally, we just try to center the expertise that each organization really holds and help it blossom and create space for leaders and organizations to really develop the data informed decision making that they want to see. This is something we find that a lot of mission driven organizations really truly value, because that's how they show the impact of their work, that they're making a difference in the world. And it's also how they make good decisions with limited resources. So that's what we do.
That's so awesome and so important. I know it's something that you're passionate about, and knowing you over the years, I know that you have a lot of integrity in the way that you think about working with data and working with people and using data to inform those decisions and your work. So it's really cool to see that you are now all in on Fireside Consulting and doing that work.
It's funny you mentioned the integrity piece. That's such a compliment coming from you, but I also got a fortune cookie once that said something like, you value your principles over your own success. And I was like, is this a dig? Like, I was like, oh, you let your principles get in the way of like your ambitions or something. And I was like, no, I think that's what I want. I think that's good. I think I like that. I think that's right.
Yes, and I don't think it's an either or thing. I
Yeah.
think you can have your principles and be successful, and I think you're doing that.
Yeah. That was the interesting thing about it, as it positioned them as like opposite. And I think you just see a lot of examples of that, where we live in a world with billionaires and trillionaires, and you wonder, there's a lot of consensus around like there's no way you can do that and not be an exploitative. And so anyway, I'm taking us off track, but that's what it made me think.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the things that, as I was getting started with this podcast project, I was basically thinking, I want to write more. And as I've talked about, writing wasn't coming naturally, or it wasn't flowing. So I was like, you know what? I can talk right now. And even as I'm writing, sometimes I find it helpful to speak. So I was like, I'm going to try a podcast. And you were very encouraging, giving me different topic ideas and things that you would be interested in hearing from me about. And you also suggested the Good Hang podcast to me as one that you were listening to and might be fun to riff off of. So I was thinking about that for this podcast. And so it does have that special Good Hang quality where I interviewed someone and talked good behind your back before this. And you connected me with Kelly, who I hadn't met with before. But I would love to hear just what made you think of Kelly for me to talk to her for this podcast.
Yes. First, thank you so much for experimenting with a format that I love as a way of welcoming me into the world of your podcast. I think
Mm.
that's thoughtful and also creative. So, Kelly McAnnany, she and I met when I was still a law student. So, in a past life, I was a civil rights attorney for 4 or 5 years in New York City, and I did disability rights work in the healthcare context. And so, I did representation and impact litigation, and I really loved it. Kelly made all of that possible. She was my supervisor, my mentor, and she became my friend. So even after I left that world and I stopped practicing law and I went back to school and then moved into sort of the strategic evaluation space, she has been with me all that time and through starting our families and moving jobs, moving states. She's someone I really respect and admire. And when I think about certain qualities that I have tried to emulate in her, it's really been how she approaches every leadership opportunity with curiosity and a sense of doing this with communities and sourcing wisdom from communities that are experiencing whatever harm or problem or challenge that we're trying to solve for. That community lawyering approach or community organizing approach I learned from her. And I also learned just how to keep humor as part of your leadership style, how's this humor about yourself, how to poke fun at others, which is something that Amy Poehler talks about in the Good Hang podcast a lot. Is just that language of love is being able to make fun of somebody with love.
Mhm.
um, and I think also how to really challenge quite directly people that you're trying to solve problems with, or even maybe in an adversarial context when you're in the legal world, who's on the other side of that table and how do you challenge them in a way that is productive but firm and doesn't compromise anyone's values. She modeled that a lot for me. But that there's such a thing as productive rage, right? Like against injustice. I think and how to channel that into advocacy is something I learned from working with her.
The admiration and the respect is definitely mutual. And she talked about really seeing you as somebody who really worked well with people in community lawyering and lifting people up and really helping people feel empowered to share their experience, and sometimes in years long campaigns, just really working in that way. And it was really cool to hear because I knew a bit about your work, but didn't really know just that work that you were doing, working with. She talked about the work with people with disabilities to get access to mammograms was one of the examples that she shared. And she talked about you as a unicorn person, someone who's just very witty, a doer and a thinker, someone who's creative, someone who has this great smile, glowing smile, and very open. I hope when you listen to her talk about you, you really let all of that sink in. But it was really cool. And we agreed on a lot of things, even though we've seen you in different contexts. So it's pretty cool.
I cannot wait to hear it. I just so appreciative that you incorporated her into this process. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
That's awesome. She did have some fun questions for you.
Okay.
So one of them was, if your leadership style was a paint color, what would it be and why?
Oh, the paint color. I am seeing, I feel like this is a very maybe cheating answer. but I see ombre. So
Nice.
like a deep purple fading into like pinks and oranges. And the reason is that I think this is really metaphorical, but I think the y- you need a deep sense of self, a strong foundation. I think to be a good leader, a strong understanding of what kind of leader do I want to show up as in this space or in this moment or for today or whatever it is in this season of my life in this particular role. And that's the deep dark color, just reflecting this is my center, this is my core. And then the more lighter ombre fade out is really about the learning never ends, the adaptability, the listening piece of it, allowing some space for other colors to blend in that maybe are not yours. And one color would just be too static because leadership is so dynamic. And the way that I like to work with people is really in partnership and feeding off their energy and reflecting back to them. And so I couldn't just pick one color.
I love that. I love that. The kind of that strong sense of self and purpose. And also there's this ability to be impacted by others and to work with others too. When she said this question, I was like, oh yeah, Mindy could go there because you have a very creative mind and visual mind and things like that. So I was like, yeah, we could ask that question. That would be interesting. I love it.
Yeah. And I think we might get to this, but just as a preview, when we worked together, so you were my coach,
Mhm.
and I can't wait to share how wonderful that experience has been for me. And just for anyone listening, if you should totally work with Christine, even if you're just like, I don't know, just do it. But, but I used to make drawings about the things that we talked about, and some of them were really goofy. But I still have them and I still look at them from time to time because there's nothing like symbolism as a tool. You described it. I think you shared it with me as here's a way you can find a shortcut to some concepts that you've been developing, even if they're very complex concepts. Sometimes you need to access them quickly and in a moment of high emotions, or I think we've all had moments where you can't think.
Right.
You're just being so challenged by whatever's happening. And so having a little picture of, I don't know, one of my pictures was of a little baby because it was like my inner need for validation or so. I don't know to remember, but just, oh yeah, that's the baby in my ear talking to me and asking me to do whatever it is that I'm about to say. And maybe I shouldn't say that out loud.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway, the drawings, the visuals. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, the visuals, some people struggle with them, and I found like for you, you access the visuals really easily. They're supportive of you. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
I just want to point out I am not an artist. These drawings are really bad. Don't let that stop you if you're thinking about trying it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It just needs to mean something to you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You need to barely be able to recognize it. Yeah. Connected, another question that Kelly had is, and it could go, I'll give you a few different pathways. So she said another thing that would be fun would maybe be asking what's one thing that people get wrong about leadership, or you could say about law or data evaluation, but what's wrong, one thing that people get wrong about it, or from your perspective, you see a little bit differently.
I think with both data evaluation, strategic planning, law, in all of these spaces that I have had access to because of my education and then my career, I think there's a perception that there's like an esoteric quality to it. Like they both law, data have their own lingo, they have their own data platforms, they have their own systems. And if you're in the know, you're in the know. And if you're not, and I think there's a general perception that there's an outside and an inside to this work. And I'm not minimizing expertise. I think expertise is important and guidance is important in these spaces, but there is a lot you can do without having a law degree or having a specific training in data analysis. There's a lot of wisdom that you can bring to conversations about what should advocacy look like in the legal context, or how should we describe or tell the story of our impact. And I think sometimes when I would find myself in spaces with community members in the advocacy context, they would look to me like, oh, you're the lawyer. You have all the answers, right? It's not really. I have the tools to navigate the process, but the wisdom is shared, and the real work of it is not something that I can bring by myself, right? And I find that this is true sometimes too in my consulting work, when we work with really amazing organizations that do so much good work and are looking for help telling the story about that work. They're so relieved to have us in the room. They sit back with their hands up and they're like, okay, you figure it out. And I'm always coming back and saying, actually, I need to pick your brain because you have all the answers. I'm going to put a framework around it, right? I suspect it's not unlike coaching, where you encourage people to tap into their own wisdom and help them understand that they already have everything they need to tackle their problems. I see a corollary there. So I think the misperception, to sum it up, would be that you need some sort of outside person to tell you what the right answer is. It's not like that at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's a collaborative project that builds on scaffolds upon wisdom that you already have.
I love that. And you're right. There's so many connections to coaching. And also, I recently took a course on mediation and conflict management, and it's a law adjacent. It was through the Harvard Law School program on negotiation. But I was, I guess, pleasantly surprised at the parallels between mediation and coaching. I was like, oh, yeah, they're not necessarily talking about people's inner wisdom and resourcefulness, but it is really about, like, if you take a more facilitative approach, it's really about helping people kind of surface what is important for them to share. It's tapping into understanding their values and interests and all of that. It's really cool to hear you reflect on that from the law and data standpoint. And the consultants that I love working with the most, or that I've loved working with the most, are those that hold that openness and don't come in as, oh, I'm here to tell you or to do this, but really to see it in this collaborative light.
Yeah, I always flash back to this moment when I was a lawyer and I was giving a lot of community education presentations. For anyone who is unfamiliar with disability rights, in the US, we have the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, and that is one of the main laws. There's another one called Section 504 of the Rehab Act. Can't believe I still remember this stuff. I used to give this presentation like weekly for years. So these laws, and then there's other local state laws. Anyway, there's a framework, right, of rights to help ensure access to all of the activities that we as civic members of society enjoy, regardless of disability status. But the thing is, these are unfunded laws, right? There's nobody, it's not like there's a police force that's coming in and saying, oh, you broke the law of the ADA, so now we're going to come in and fix it. They're all self-enforced. So if you have been aggrieved or that your rights were violated, like you have to enforce, you're as this person that was aggrieved are responsible for enforcing your own rights, which is really tough, especially if you're in a really bad medical situation. Anyway, going off. So I used to give this presentation and then I would talk about how to enforce your own rights. And I remember being in this group of folks giving this presentation and somebody just got agitated and was like, why? Like, why? You're the lawyer. You do it. Why do I have to do it? And I was like, I think that was in my first like few months of doing this. And I sat there and I was like, man, yeah, like yes, like this is hard. And so I think as much as you and I both appreciate this setup where it's not just like someone swooping in and saying, these are all the answers. I do think there are spaces where, man, people are tired and they do just want you to carry that for them. And so I've done a lot of thinking about like, where is the line? Especially in when I'm in those situations where I'm working with groups that are really low resourced or just really overburdened or just carrying a lot of the burden all the time. And so how can I still center their expertise, but carry some more of the burden?
Mm.
And a lot of the answer is take notes, provide infrastructure, write the schedule, do all the like the scaffolding work so that they can just show up with ideas.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's really thoughtful too, which is unsurprising coming from you. I appreciate that. I would love to just since we are structuring this kind of after the good hang with Amy Poehler's podcast, I'm curious, what you appreciate about it, what else you're listening to these days, like our podcast part of your regular rotation. I know you said you're listening to this one. Thank you. But yeah.
So I like Amy Poehler's podcast Good Hang because I really feel for not all the episodes. Some of them are clearly like planned around certain movie releases or whatever, but
Sure.
many of them are just literally people that she's friends with that are also famous. And I like listening to their conversations and feeling there's a lot of intimacy that she creates very quickly. And I don't know if you feel this way, but especially in like the holidays, right? Party season, lots of opportunities to go to places and meet people that you might not be familiar with or haven't seen in a while. And sometimes I get exhausted by the need to get over that initial hurdle. And I just want to start by asking, like, what is your biggest life dream? What's the scariest thing that's ever happened to you? Either just really let's like get in there. Let's really get to know each other. If we're gonna do this, let's really do it, kind of thing. And I think she does that very well. And so it's very validating and satisfying to hear her talk like that with that level of intimacy with people she knows. And so another podcast that I've been listening to recently that is just a really good release and just gets you out of your space is Normal Gossip. Have you heard of this?
I don't know this one.
Oh, it's just anonymized true gossip as if a friend is telling you a story. So there's one about like a girl's bachelorette trip. There's one about someone who takes up knitting and gets into the inner world of this knitting group and some juicy morsels that happen there. It's just really fun and doesn't make you think too much and is relatable. And I like it because gossip can be productive. It can be a way to build intimacy, and it can also be a way they talk about this on the podcast. I always skip past the first 10 minutes now because I always ask the guests, what does gossip mean to you? But I've heard it so many times that I can't, I have no more tolerance for it. But because the themes repeat, but sometimes gossip, especially among women and people identify as women, it can be a way of warning oh, hey, watch out for that person. They're maybe not a safe person. So gossip is like really powerful, but can also be really fun. So I like listening to the podcast. And what's another one? Oh, this one's really old and it's not on anymore, but I feel is still relevant and wonderful. And I came to the party late. I listened to the whole thing after it was already done. It's called Two Dope Queens. It's just these two women who are both comedians, and they've gone on to do, or maybe they were already somewhat famous, but they both have comedic careers now and are on TV shows and stuff. But they were just friends who made this podcast, and it's just hilarious. One of them is obsessed with the lead of U2, and that's like a recurring theme. And it's just laugh out loud, like snorting on the way to work. Because at the time I was commuting to a different job, and just really funny stuff. Highly recommend.
So it seems like funny is a part of it. You like the intimacy, but also the humor piece of when you're listening to podcasts.
Yeah. And also a theme. It's like a lot of women focused or queer focused artists, people who have earned humor as a release. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't think I've ever said that in that way out loud before, but this idea that humor as a way to heal, mend, and connect from oppression. I think I am feel particularly connected to those kinds of conversations and that type of humor.
I love that. I know one thing you said about Good Hang was it was like this idea that she just kind of gets on there and has a conversation, and that's valid. Just like chatting with her friends too. I know it's beyond what you just said with the heal, mending, and connecting, but
no, I'm glad you brought that up because it is something that initially really ignited my passion for the podcast. Was Amy Poehler's original concept for it was there's a lot of male dominated podcasts, and her joke about it was like they don't even have to try. They just come on and they just talk with their buddies, and it's like all of a sudden millions of followers. I could do that. I could just I don't have to like plan or research. I could just show up and talk and say whatever I think and my opinions, and that's just as good and entertaining and valid. I can tell though now she couldn't help herself. Like she does definitely prepare and do research.
Yeah, they don't just get on and hang.
Yeah, she doesn't just like wing it. But I was intrigued by that rebellious approach to creating her own, edging out a little space for herself in the podcast world.
Yeah, I like that. I like what you said. Just that's so interesting. Earned humor as a release, but yeah, that place of healing too, and that humor can be healing, and just these spaces of connecting and learning. Even something like normal gossip, like what you were saying about gossip it is often associated with women, and it's put down. Women are criticized for it, but this way that you're talking about this potential of storytelling or warning or connection too, that there's value there.
And it's a way there's always a villain and a hero, and there's always relatable moments of sometimes embarrassments. And it just models that, hey, everyone goes through some stuff like this. And maybe one day you're the person that's being gossiped about, but another day you're just relating to and empathizing with the person you're hearing about. So we all get to be on all sides of this. It just normalizes that we all make mistakes, and gossip is a way of learning from the mistakes of others sometimes, and also figuring out what you think or what you would have done or what your values are. So yeah.
Absolutely. That's so interesting. I'm always looking for good podcasts, so I'm gonna have to check that one out.
Yeah. Let me know what you think.
I will. Awesome. I would love to, you mentioned that we work together in a coaching context, and you were one of my very first coaching clients, actually, as I was just getting started. I was even in my training still when we first started working together. So I would love to hear a little bit about your experience. I know you've shared things and you already gave me a great plug earlier. You don't need to do that. But just what it was like for you, or what you value in coaching, and yeah, things you've learned or want to share about that.
I always forget it was really early. And I think you were even, you were very forthcoming about that. And you're like, I'm just figuring this out. Let's try it. But that was not how I experienced it. It was really amazing how naturally this came to you. I don't know how it felt that way to you, but I I interviewed a few different folks, and it was like night and day when we talked. And I was like, oh, click. Yeah. So I think what I really got from coaching, because we've done this a few different times over the years, I think. And I don't remember, it was a long time ago when we started. And then we went off and on a couple times. But I remember coming into coaching with some ideas about wanting to find more balance, wanting to figure out how my identity in work can differ or be distinct or be melded with like other pieces of my identity that seems dim at the time. Not, we talked about the metaphor of the pie, right? What percentages of the pie are the different parts of your life and all of that. But the thing that was most groundbreaking for me was we did, what's it called? Role work?
Parts work?
Parts work. Yeah, parts. So figuring out that there's these different parts of you that, and you talk about this in your podcast sometimes, especially some of the grief, the way that talk about grief as walking next to you or needing attention from you, externalizing these parts of yourself and being in conversation with them or just being with them, or the exercise of putting a piece of you in front of yourself and literally and figuratively making space for that to be in conversation with different parts of you. That was amazing. And then that movie Inside Out came out and I was like,
Yes.
this is like exactly like coaching. So anyway, I think I really began to understand who I am in ways that I identify with myself as less integrated at first, and then the idea was to become more integrated. So from those solid paint colors to the ombre to bring it full circle. Yeah, it's really fascinating and surprising sometimes too, because I would make space for different parts of myself and start to converse with them and hear things I didn't know that I thought, or understand wisdom that I didn't know that I had. And really the way in which I don't know. I feel that other people must experience this, and it's not just me, but that disconnection from your instincts or that feeling of not being able to tap. There's a lot of noise around what you really think or what you really believe. Sometimes that noise is there because of past experiences or whatever, self-doubt, etc. So being able to shut out the noise and just listen to yourself is really a skill. It sounds simple, but it's not. It's something you learn. And so I learned that through coaching.
That's amazing. It is something that we learn when we practice. And I think because in society, we learn to push like negative experiences and negative feelings, those experiences and feelings that we label as negative away, and often like gloss over them. And instead of spending some time to understand them, understand how they might be connected, and even what they're trying to do for us in our lives. So that's cool. That's something that you took away from coaching, is that feeling of one, an understanding of, we call it the multiplicity of the mind. A part of me feels this and a part of me feels that. But like understanding that, and how there's, yeah, your integrated whole, and in that kind of parts work, language, yourself, that core of really groundedness, and that core of yourself, where ideally that's where you're making your decisions from, and not letting the fear or whatever drive the car.
Yeah.
Yeah. And knowing it's okay, like we're not perfect people, but that awareness is helpful.
It's all about that, right? It's
Yeah.
not because I think before coaching with you, I didn't even know that's what was happening. Everything just felt it just felt like I wasn't driving, but
Mhm.
I didn't even have that language to describe it. It's just like, why do I feel so ooh all the time?
Mhm.
And so now, at least when that's happening, I know what I can label it. I have tools to think through it. And yeah, like you said, not about always being centered or always,
Right.
yeah, it's not that at all.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Something I was thinking about is a difference between coaching, and there are many differences between coaching and like therapy, but part of it is also the relationship, where I knew you prior to coaching a bit. We've worked together in coaching, sometimes in and out, maybe like we're not currently working together in coaching, but maybe down the road you'll be like, hey, I want to work on something or reconnect around coaching. But we also know each other outside of coaching. We've sang karaoke together, things like that. I'm curious, like, how was that for you, or how is it for you? Yeah, knowing me, and how has that been integrating those parts of our connection?
I honestly, I wish we hung out more. It's what I can't believe we only done karaoke once. Like
Right.
that seems wrong, but I think I don't know. I didn't think about it like that. It's not really an issue at all. I think at first I was curious. I remember asking you like, what's the difference between coaching and therapy, and you
Hmm.
gave a really helpful answer about the different tools that you use, and it's not really a therapeutic relationship. It's not I'm not going for
Hmm.
transference here. Like it's different. And one of the main ways that I experienced that just in a practical sense was you never ever like with a therapist, my habit was to come in and be like, okay, so here's what happened. And then go through every detail of every little thing and really tell the story of my past week. And in coaching, it's you don't even need to know any of that. Like you
Hmm.
don't need to know anything. And it's because I already know, right? And that's the point. Is like, what do I think? What is my wisdom? And that flipped the whole thing on its head in such a useful way for me and built a lot of confidence in my own decision making. Yeah, it just made me admire you and your skills and want to be your friend all the more because unle- uh, especially you just started doing it and you were like expert level 5,000, at least for me. So yeah, it's reminding me of some thoughts I was having as I was listening to your podcast actually this week. How cool it is to be around or in community with so many people who are so good at what they do, so accomplished, and just makes me think of that. Oh, I'm gonna forget his name now. Paul Rudd. There's
Mm.
that meme of look at us. Who'd have thought? It's just, yeah, look at us. And you are very impressive and very good at what you do and very helpful to me personally. So even when we're not coaching, I'm like, my favorite people. Where are you up to, Christine? How's it going? Yeah.
That's awesome. I really appreciate you. And in coaching, I thought wasn't planning to ask that, but I thought I would just in case listeners were curious about that too, because we have ethical standards. I never I asked you before this podcast, can we talk about this or not?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
fine. But that's something I always emphasize to people is I'm not going to say that I'm your coach or talk to you about anything without your permission. But I have a lot of clients who are just like, hey, this is my coach, or I've worked with her. And so they're just sharing that piece of things, which I appreciate. But also, it's good either way.
Yeah. You're great with boundaries and with permission and all of that. And speaking of integrity, definitely feel that sense of safety that you create around it. And then, but also there's this piece of me that feels a little bit gospel-y about it.
Uh-huh.
If you don't know, if you haven't heard, like you should try. Yeah,
I appreciate it.
there's a word for that.
Yeah, and
Proselytize.
yeah, we have only done karaoke once. I'm trying to remember what song you did. I feel like it was fun. Of course.
Probably Zombie
Yeah, probably.
by the Cranberries.
Funny. I think that's right. Is that your go-to song?
That's one of them. And what's the other? What's Up by Four Non
Oh
Blondes.
yes. We probably sang that together because that's one of my go-to
Nice.
songs when I share. I
You
have
did one by the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. That was
yeah,
good. Yeah.
yes. Yeah, yeah, yes. And then I have my Courtney loves or the whole song that I sing,
Yeah.
which I think a lot of people are like, that doesn't really fit your persona, but I don't know. I have a lot of fun singing it. Okay. But I find karaoke to be like very cathartic. So it's probably why I pick screamy songs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I would love to hear a little bit if you could share just maybe we talked a little bit about Fireside. You did launch the business 3 years ago, transition to full time. What are you learning in business?
It's amazing to have a business partner. A lot of folks that I've connected with recently, that you've helped me connect with recently, don't and are out on their own. And I'm not sure I fully appreciated just how important it is, especially for someone like me who really thrives on externalizing thoughts so that I can work through just to have someone else to walk with me in this journey has been amazing. And so I'm super appreciative of my business partner and just, I think, learn. It sounded like a good idea at the time. And then I think I learned after the fact, just like what a smart decision that was for us, but to partner in that way. And it also allowed me to really focus in on becoming a mom and starting a family, I was still working full time in another role and had Fireside as a business on the side, and then had a baby. And so navigating through all of that, I think I learned a lot about tapping into that inner confidence, even through the hormonal ups and downs, the physical pain and challenges and healing, the seismic shift in identity from not a mom to mom is, I know they say, oh, no one ever tells you. If they do tell you, it's like if you've never seen the ocean and someone is describing it to you, it's not, they can give you the most detailed description, but you're just not going to get what it feels like to float on the ocean until you're like really there, right? Like it
Mhm.
just, it's so anyway, navigating through that, just being able to, I wouldn't say keep set myself centered, but I think it's a process of continually finding your center and over and over and over again because you get knocked off balance 100 zillion times and you just keep strengthening those. I keep strengthening those muscles of find the center again, find it again, find it again.
Mm.
And does it look different this time? And how do I make decisions from that place every time I get knocked out of it? How do I find my way back and continue to try to make decisions from that place and not be too hard on myself when I
Mhm.
haven't found it? I can't find it, or if I need help finding it. And that's what tools can I use and what people can I reach out to help me get back there? I think starting a business, becoming a mom, all of that can really, that was a real season of self-doubt for me. People talk about imposter syndrome. I have a love-hate relationship with that term because sometimes I'm like, it's not imposter syndrome. It's really just oppression, but voiced inward.
Yes.
You're
Uh-huh.
converting all the things that are out there and trying to keep you down into your own voice. And so now you're telling yourself you're an imposter, but it's just another form of oppression. Anyway, I think all of those things come up when you have big changes in your life, whether it's shifting your identity into to becoming part of a family or starting a business, changing roles, moving states. I don't know. All of it. If you become ill, if you think of 1,000 things,
Mm.
what does this mean about me and who I am and what my life is going to look like going forward? And it can really, it can really, it really challenged me to get to know myself over and over again
Mm.
and to figure out what I like about this person and what I can leave behind and what can I forgive and what is hard for me to forgive and what am I still holding on to and how is that affecting how I show up some days. That's a really vague, long,
Mm.
circuitous answer. Now you've seen the inside of my brain.
Oh, it's perfect. What are the things that help you get back to center? I think that's beautiful. Like you are going to keep meeting yourself over and over. Talking over my question, but I just want to say, yeah, you are meeting yourself over and over in these different contexts. You're challenged in different ways. And so, yeah, how do you know when it's time to come back to center or to recenter? And what helps you do that?
I will say it really helps to have a partner. So my husband, who can be an external source of validation when you need it. And I think there it's important to have people in your life who do that for you, family, friends, partners, because I have my own history with mental illness. And so sometimes it's really truly impossible. Like biologically, physically, mentally, whatever, spiritually impossible to see through fog, and to just have somebody on the other side of that saying, tapping you on your shoulder and saying, hey, this is depression, or this is anxiety, or this is just not like you. What can I do? Or what are some tools that we've used together in the past that we can like bring up now? Or do you remember that journal you wrote down those coping goals in? Like, where is that? Um, or do you need a nap? That just somebody prompting you so it's not all coming from inside, because sometimes you really can't. And so that was helpful, really helpful. I think I relied a lot on the tools that we developed in coaching. I practiced a lot of breathing. So for anyone who's like me, I used to think that breathing exercises were total BS, and I didn't do them, and it felt so silly. But I am now a believer in all there's different ones for different things. And there's a lot of research actually in science that backs this up. And so breathing exercises, just having a few in your back pocket. They talk a lot. People, experts in this space, like you, and mental health and behavioral health experts, and will tell you that there's this important moment that you need to create some space between what your amygdala is like telling you have to do, and what your frontal cortex wishes it could say if the amygdala would move out of the way. So just doing the work to create those moments, having family to vent to, having friends to vent to, being in community with other people who know what you're going through or have been through something similar. I think I was thinking a lot recently as the year turns over, what do I want to create for my life and in the next year? And I think more focus on creating community and inviting community in would be my next thing. There's something very navel gazing sometimes about self work and improving yourself and getting through postpartum depression and postpartum rage and postpartum anxiety, and then all the regular flavors of all those things. And and that's really hard work, but it can also be, even though you're relying on the help of others, it can be isolating in that it's a bit I'm really looking inward a lot. And so now that I feel like I have a foothold on my business a little bit, and we knock on wood, anything can change at any time, but your business, my business, my family life is taking shape, and I really would like to be building more community and inviting more community. And a part of myself that we identified in coaching, I think, was the host.
Mm.
I don't like cook. I'm not a party planner. I can't do the like stereotypical things that are associated with someone who's, oh, what a great host. But I have other ways of hosting. Like, I can create social intimacy, and I can be a good listener, and I can be a good friend. And I'd like to do more of that this coming year.
I think that's so important. It's something that I've focused on too this year. That was one of my words for this year, and it is going to be one of my words for next year too, is community. And this year it was community and creativity, as I was thinking about the election last year, the political situation that we're in. And I really think community and creativity are going to be important for our collective survival and mental and physical and social well-being. Community and creativity. And I think I'm going to continue that thread of community into next year too, and want to strengthen that. So it's nice to hear that from you as well. And
I love that.
yeah.
And those two concepts are so tied together for me, because I need community and I need people around me to get the thoughts out of my head, to be creative. And I also think as we age, maybe, I don't know yet, this is a thought that hasn't had much airing, but this idea that you kind of get stuck in your ideas, you get stuck in your world, you get stuck in your beliefs. And what
Yes.
takes you out of that is other people.
Yes.
And it keeps your mind nimble and flexible and malleable. And I always want that. It's being curious and being flexible in how I think about things and my opinions is such a core part of my identity. And so I think community will be a big piece of that as I get older and as I show my kid what it means. And so community makes you creative.
Definitely. It helps expand you. Yeah, like in a lot of different ways. That's awesome. Anything else you want to share about what you're learning as a parent or enjoying or not enjoying or yeah, that experience?
There's a book a friend gave to me called Motherhood. And I'm blanking on the author right now, but I just really recommend this to anyone at any stage of parenting. I read it when I was pregnant, and it gave me permission to feel all of the ways about being a parent and what it means to take on this role. It's done through allegories or fairy tales and picking out the different roles in fairy tales and what it means for parenthood. This these tales of the Wicked Witch and the old crone and the young maiden and what do all these mean? What are these archetypes really, and what do they mean about? I think specifically for women, but I think anyone can relate. You are all of these things, and you will see yourself as all of these things as you parent. And it's okay if you're gonna be the Wicked Witch one day, like that happens. And it's actually a really productive part of the journey. I'm not really doing it justice, but I really identify with that. I think there's a lot of pressure to be a perfect parent, whatever that might mean, and a lot of pressure to not make mistakes with your kids. And that's impossible. And that's also really hard. And I think there's something I really enjoy about being challenged in that way. And first, it's really hard, and I get down on myself, and I get really sad, and I, I can be, I can even feel a little bit angry, but then getting through to the other side and being able to laugh about it and like figure out like okay, what happened? What do I think about it? And now what? And if I need to make a repair with my kid, like, how do I do that? And actually find it really interesting and rewarding. So I don't know. Do you ever want to talk more about that?
Yes, yes, definitely. Definitely. All of that I can relate for sure. And it's just cool to see you in this kind of part of your life or this identity, which means so much too, an experience or yeah. So I'm very curious about this book too, Motherhood, to check it out. That's cool. Thank you for sharing. Let's see. What else did I want to ask you? I know we're getting to time. Sorry. Oh yeah, I guess just I'm curious, what are you doing for fun these days? Or whether it's reading, watching, activities, but yeah, what's lifting you up these days?
I am in my Zumba
Ooh,
season.
I love it. I love a good Zumba class.
Oh my goodness. So this is extremely meaningful for me because I grew up with the belief that I was not athletic, totally uncoordinated, not a good dancer. I never even danced alone. And it hasn't been until my adult years, quite late, that I was able to let go of a lot of that, and it's pure joy. It's just really I also had a season of struggle with movement and exercise and like really wanting to incorporate that into my life, but not just feeling a lot of blocks and barriers around it. And today, my usual gym is actually closed. And for a couple weeks, I drove to a different gym to take another Zumba class with a teacher and people that I don't know. And it was great. And that like I think it wasn't that long ago, probably less than a couple years ago, that I would have never. I'm like, that's not me. I'm not that person. If the gym is closed, that means no, that's my excuse. I don't have to go. But apparently that's not me right now. So that's fun and interesting. And I don't know. I still find it surprising that I wake up and I'm like, I'm going to go. I'm always like, oh, okay. I guess we're doing this. Yeah.
That's awesome. So you've met Zumba Mindy then.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, so I'm one of the woo people. Woo! Like in the Zumba. During the class and going, woo, that's me. I'm one of those people now.
Oh, fun. Yeah. I personally love a good dance class, Zumba or whatever. So that's really cool to hear that
So
you
what you're saying is
found.
you're going to come with
Yeah.
me.
Let me know when and where. I'm finally moving more regularly too and prioritizing that and enjoying it. But yeah, a good Zumba session. It's always in order.
Yeah.
Nice. Was there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up?
I have a whole new thought a conversation I want to start with you, but we'll have to take it offline about hormonal cycles and
Oh,
how they
yes. Oh
affect
my
your
gosh.
productivity and why doesn't anyone talk about this?
Oh, yeah.
That's
Definitely.
another
We should
podcast
talk
for
about
another
that.
day.
That can be a teaser for a future episode
Yeah.
because I feel like, one, I need to learn more about that. And two, I think probably a lot of people need to know about it. So,
If anyone listening knows anything about it, tell Christine so she can tell me, because I talked to my doctor about everyone's. We don't know what you're talking about. Okay. I guess I'll be on TikTok and Reddit. Thank you so much, Christine. I really appreciate this time with you. And I hope we do get to hang out soon.
Yes, me too. Thank you. It's definitely been a good hang online, and we'll make some time for in person soon. Wow, I loved this conversation with Mindy. So at the end of the Good Hang podcast, Amy Poehler's podcast, she does the Poehler Plunge, which makes a little more sense with her last name than mine. But I'm going to do the Petit Plunge, which is basically just pulling out an idea or a thought or a lasting comment for you to think about, something that stood out to me. So there was so much from this conversation. It was so rich. I really do find Mindy to be such a thoughtful and deep thinker, as well as a lot of fun. I do want to say that since recording, I have started listening to the Normal Gossip podcast. I really enjoyed the episode that I just listened to about a missing pie, a pie that went missing at a Thanksgiving weekend. Highly recommend. It was very entertaining. And another thing that really stuck with me from this conversation was just thoughtfulness around working with people who are overburdened or don't have a lot of resources, and that balance between ensuring people have voice and that their knowledge and wisdom is central to the process, and providing that like scaffolding and ways to ease the burden of advocacy. I think that just is really resonating with me. But for the Petit Plunge, what's really sticking with me is this idea of community and creativity and the relationship between them. I love what Mindy said about how those two feed one another for her, and the idea that you get stuck in your ideas, you get stuck in your beliefs over time, and what shakes you out of that is other people. And that value of keeping your mind nimble and flexible and malleable, to be open to other ideas. So, my question for you is, what are you doing, or who do you talk with, or who are you in relationship with that helps ideas circulate and newness come in and maybe challenge your beliefs? Where is that for you, and what value does that hold for you? So thank you for listening. I know this was a long one, and I really appreciate you being here for it. It was long, but I think rich, and for me, a lot of fun. So thank you. To support the Resourced and Resourceful Leadership podcast, please follow or subscribe to the show. Leave a 5-star review. And thanks to those of you who have done that. I see you. Thank you. And share the show with a few people who you think would appreciate it. And please check out the link to SpeakPipe in the show notes. It's been a little while since I got a message from anybody. I'd love it if you left me a message. Thanks again, and take good care.